This is Jared with MetalSpeak.com, here with a review of Weather Systems by Anathema. The album was released on April 24th, 2012 through the End Records. Anathema is a prog rock band from the UK, one of the best ones out there, I might add. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the ratings categories. For brutality, I'm going to go ahead and give this a 7 out of 10. Really, when Daigle and I put this rating system together, we thought we'd pretty much nailed down the perfect rating system for metal and rock albums. And nothing really throws me a curveball more than when I get promo from a band like Anathema. It's not because it's bad music, it's just I can't put a square peg in a round hole and judge this on brutality or anything like that. It's definitely a heavy album, but it is progressive. Progressive metal, progressive rock, so it's going to be a little lighter than your average Cannibal Corpse album, but definitely heavier than what you'd probably hear on the radio at some points. So I'm just going to go ahead and give the album a 7 out of 10 because it's my website and I can. So moving on, for songwriting, I'm going to give this album a 10 out of 10. I've been a huge fan of this band for a long time, and they, the first time I ever heard them was back in the summer of 2004. I had actually was chatting with some random girl in a metal chat room, and she turned me onto this album, onto Judgment by Anathema, and told me that this was an album that she had several friends that were metalheads and very just into the brutal stuff, and she said that even that album had brought them to tears. So I had to check it out, and she was right. It's definitely one of my favorite albums of all time. I think if you've listened to our episodes in the past, I think I had it in my top 10 desert island albums that I'd have to have with me if I was ever stranded on a desert island. So definitely my love affair with this band runs deep. They've released 2 other albums of material since I got into them, A Natural Disaster and We're Here Because We're Here. And both those albums produced mixed reactions in me. I think that they were good albums. They just weren't like consistently good front to back listens. So I think with Weather Systems, what Anathema has done is I think this is really a fully realized vision of what their sound or what you would expect their sound to be. I've always maintained that one of my favorite songs that they've ever done was Parisian Moonlight from the Judgment album, which featured female vocals from Lee Douglas. Mostly the female vocals on the lead on that song, and then she'd done some background work for the band over the years. And what I really love about this album is that they've really expanded her presence on the album and in the songs, and have really kind of made her a full-time part of the band, which it just takes the music to a whole new gorgeous level, especially a song like Lightning Song, which it just has a great melody, great string arrangements, just a very soaring feel to it. And it's just the stuff she does on here is just awesome. The rest of the album, the first song, it was kind of weird. It's one of those like when you put on an album, and the first time I listened to this album when we got the promo, I'm listening to the first track, and it kind of had this standard acoustic kind of finger picking thing going on. I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of interesting. And then the beat just kind of picked up, and the bass kicks in, and everything just starts going and has this really kick-ass riff. And it was just, I listen to so much music anymore, I rarely ever get goosebumps. So the fact that I got goosebumps on that song right at the door, and I just knew this album was going to be fantastic. Other highlights of the album would be Sunlight, which has a great build up. I love The Storm Before the Calm. The Lost Child is fantastic, and then the album's closer, Internal Landscapes, is just phenomenal. I mean, really, just front to back, this is probably the most consistently enjoyable listen that Anathema has put out since Judgment, in my opinion. It's just a great album from all angles. I think there's something here for everybody. whether you're into the really brutal stuff or if you've enjoyed like you know, lighter prog rock. You know, if you're into like Porcupine Tree or anything like that, you're definitely gonna find something to like on this album. So very, very, very well done. Um, for production, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. This album is pristine. It sounds great. I really like the low end. You know, like I mentioned on the first track, Untouchable Part One, when the bass just kicks in, it's, you know, it's very sudden, and it's just a throbbing just rumble that just I can't you just have to listen to it. I can't even describe just how rich and full the sound is on this album. It's just and it fits the atmosphere of the album perfectly. This is another album that you probably just you want to take some time with. Just, you know, darken the lights, put on your good headphones, and just kind of lay back and let it surround you. Just because it sounds so good. So. Repeat listenability, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. I've been listening to this album pretty consistently since we got the promo. I know it's been 5 or 6 months since we got it, and I keep going back to it. And really the tracks that I keep going back to are some of the ones that I mentioned earlier. You know, Untouchable Parts 1 and 2. The Lightning song, Sunlight, probably has the most plays of all the songs. I can't get enough of that song. It has this great build up. It has these awesome vocal harmonizations between Vincent Cavanaugh and Lee Douglas. It's haunting. It's gorgeous. I just love listening to that song. So. No worries there whatsoever about whether or not I'm going to be enjoying this one in perpetuity for a long time. As far as the artwork and layout goes, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. The front cover is just a really interesting piece of work. It looks kind of like almost like a kind of cosmic eyeball kind of floating in the sky. You know, they seem to kind of stick with the you know, the clouds and the bright lights and stuff like that. So it's a very very cool colors, and by cool I mean like temperature-wise. It has a very kind of soothing, ethereal effect. So I really like the front cover. Actually, I haven't seen the layout of the notes since it was a digital promo, but the cover itself really speaks to me. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. So overall, I'm going to give this album a 9.2 out of 10. It's a pretty high score by our standards and probably by a lot of standards, but it totally deserves it. As I said before, you know, even if you're into the harder edge stuff and the more brutal stuff, if you enjoy well written songs that are both catchy, but they're not poppy, you're really going to enjoy this album. I think there's really something here for everyone. I think there's enough heaviness on here for people that like the brutal stuff, but there's also enough lighter stuff on here for people that are into the more progressive and just kind of just really the more rockish side of things. So I don't think there's any problem with saying this album is probably going to have a universal appeal amongst a lot of people if they just check it out. So please check it out. It's awesome, and thanks for listening.